I'm Beck and welcome to my October to be read plans. Usually people for October would read a bunch of spooky books and I have tried to go down that vein as well, so let's get into a few new releases and all of the books that I would like to read during October. I'm being once again ambitious, so let's hope it works out for me. Firstly, that new release doesn't really align with the spooky or witchy vibe of Halloween, but I wanted to include it anyway. It does come out on the 26th of September, so hopefully by the time this video goes up I will have read it anyway, but it is Rick Riordan's new release, Wrath of the Triple Goddess, and this one is the sequel to the new trilogy that he's writing following Percy Jackson. So I'm really enjoying Percy's like side quests almost so that he can get into doing his college degree. I'm just having a great time. It somehow blends old and new characters and it brings in old and new readers as well, and it's very understandable and readable as you get through the story. So I'm just enjoying myself. It's a great time. I've pre-ordered that on audio, and I looked at my list before filming this video and I realized that I actually have a lot of audiobooks on here. So I'm gonna have to listen at like 11 times speed to all of these to get through them in time. Let's see what happens. And now I've got some witch books because I don't really read horror or mystery thriller, but I do like a good witch and I like magic. So I've got the House Witch books 2 and 3 on my to be read pile. I've been waiting the entire year to read these and it felt right to put them on my October TBR. So this follows Finn, and he is what's called a house witch. In this world, like witches and wizards aren't really revered. They're kind of fought against. People don't really like them. So he's trying to keep his witch identity secret, and he gets a job at the castle feeding or cooking for the king and queen. And while he's cooking and cleaning for the king and queen, he's cleaning up his own kitchen and he's got all of these magic spells in place so that he has really got a helping hand, but everyone's like, why doesn't he let anyone help him? So he starts to build this almost found family dynamic when people start realizing that he's a witch and they keep it under their hat. And at the end of the first book there was a little bit of romance that was starting to occur, so I'm hoping that over the next 2 books we get a little bit more of that as a subplot. I love all of the friendship and the story arc that Finn went on. I like the king and queen's trust of him. It's just such a great story, so I had a lot of fun and I can't wait to continue reading the series. And if I finish 2 and 3, I think there's more after that's like a companion or a continuation, I'm not sure, but hopefully 2 and 3 are the end of the trilogy because I would love to finish a series in October. Then for another witch book, I've got Witches Get Stuff Done, and it's about our main character who is coming to terms with being a witch but needs support in realizing how to use her magic, and so she's seeking a coven, and while she's seeking the support of a coven, she, I think, is holing up at this house that is full of ghosts. And it's also got a neighbor who is a librarian that's kind of grumpy. And I'm like, oh, grumpy sunshine romance, I'm keen. So it's a witchy book about learning, found family potentially with the coven aspect, and then also a romance. I'm not really sure too much beyond that as a plot point, but it came up on my library app and I thought, that sounds great for October. I'm gonna do it. And then to continue that kind of spooky theme, I've got Tempest of Tea. I had this on my to be read pile a couple of months ago and I completely forgot about it because it's on my Kindle, so it was like almost out of sight, out of mind. And I know that this has a tea shop in it or a cafe or something, and then at nighttime it turns into a nest for vampires. Beyond that, I don't really know much more about it. Maybe it's a bit of a mystery, but I'm not sure. So I'm keen to give it a try and see if I like it. And I figured that vampires and like creatures of the night really fit with the, the October theme. So I'm more than happy to add this to my TBR for the month. And then true to form, I also thought, oh, this has ghosts in it as a series, so maybe it will also fit with my October spooky theme happening here, and that is The Song Rising by Samantha Shannon, which is the 3rd book in her Bone Season series. And Paige Mahoney is our main character. She has the ability of what is called clairvoyance. The magic users in this world are called clairvoyants, and usually they can interact with the ether, they can see ghosts and everything and then use them to their advantage. And Paige can jump into people's dreamscapes, so that's their minds basically, and manipulate them and everything. So it's really cool from books 1 to now we're in book 3 to see her develop as a fully fleshed out character. And I just love the different dynamics between all of the characters in here and how they can get quite dark and treasonous and also supportive and loving and in solidarity. Like, it's such a great series, but it's also so detailed and in depth that I very briefly put it down. And so I've read 30 pages of this already, and the next book in the series, so not the 4th one because I've got that, but the 5th one, Dark Rise, comes out in like February 2025, and I thought, oh, it would be great if I could finish this and then the other book before that release, but I also don't want to finish them too early and then have a big gap to wait for the 5th book. So Whether I finish this during the month of October, I'm not sure, but it's kind of on my radar loosely because of the ghost element. Aside from that, I know that I've got a lot on my plate during October, so I might just end up leaving this for a little bit. I also have a Bone Season recap, so if you want to jump straight into the sequel to the Bone Season, I've got a recap which I will link down below for you. Then a book that, while it's not spooky, I guess it could be considered scary because of its size, and that is Oathbringer by Brandon Sanderson. Now, I want to continue my reread of the Stormlight Archive. I'm doing wrap-up videos of the best bits, the best quotes, the best moments every time I finish one of these. So I've done The Way of Kings and I've done The Words of Radiance. I've started my read of Oathbringer, but I think I need to stop getting distracted by all of the shorter books and, you know, read this instead, because I find that if I'm reading a long book and it's taking up a lot of my attention span, it feels like, even though I'm getting through pages, obviously, it feels like I'm not reading anything, because I'm not finishing anything. So I think I just need to bite the bullet and get through this, because time is running out in the year and the next book in this series comes out in December and I still need to read this and its sequel before that book releases. So I've got some reading ahead of me, I've got some mileage to make, and I do have this on audio as well, but given the volume of audiobooks I've got this month to get through, I'll either like pause some of them or I will read this physically so that I can get through it. I read physically faster than I read on audiobook, but it'll be nice to kind of go through both, I guess. So we'll see how I feel, but the aim is to finish this during October. No pressure, as well as finishing everything else on this TBR pile. So I think I'm a little bit crazy, but we'll call it optimistic. And now I've got 2 books left, and both of those are audiobooks as well, so rest in peace. And they're not necessarily like spooky themed either, which is why I left them to the end. So one of them is a romantasy called Bloodguard, which I guess like you could roughly put it into October because blood, spooky vibes. And I don't really know much about this, but because it's romantasy, I tend to not worry too much about that. And given that it's a library hold anyway, if I don't like it, I can just return it. But the thing is, this has been on my channel a couple of times before in To Be Read videos, and then it just hasn't come up as a library hold. But I think its release date is October. Whether I end up getting my Libby hold come in during October is another thing entirely. So you might end up seeing this book again in future. I don't know, but I hope that it comes out soon because I would very much like to read it instead of just thinking that I might read it in the near future. I have got through all of my To Be Read pile books during this year. Like I finished my TBR pile. So the fact that this is kind of like a dangling carrot and I keep chasing after it, I'm like, I would very much like to read this, please. So hopefully that occurs during October. And then finally, I have a new release that comes out on the 29th of October. And because of its release date, you would think that it's an October spooky release, right? No, it is a very early Christmas release, and that is called Make the Season Bright by Ashley Herring Blake. And she wrote Delilah Green Doesn't Care, or, you know, the Bright Falls trilogy, and I really enjoyed these, so I thought, oh, I'll pre-order her new book. But it follows 2 exes, and in the past, one of them left the other at the altar. It's also, you know, a sapphic romance, so female, but I was like, I am really concerned about that trope. I usually don't like it. Same with cheating, leaving at the altar, embarrassing people in front of a whole group of other people. Like, it's just not my vibe. So I'm really hoping that because I loved this so much, maybe I've misunderstood the premise and it's not the way it sounds. So I've pre-ordered the audiobook for Make the Season Bright, and I'm just crossing my fingers that it turns out well. I'm also crossing my fingers that I finish all of these witchy books during the month as well. So we'll see what happens. Oathbringer, witchy books, new releases, like it's all happening over here. But if you got this far in the video, leave me some purple heart emojis. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you have a fantastic spooky month. I'll talk to you in the comments and I'll see you in my next video. Bye.